Welcome to the Slacking Off Show, the show that you're listening to when you should be doing something else. Today, we are going to review the movie Rocketman in theaters May 27th. Now, I'm with the one and the only Cameron Messer.
I think it's May 30th.
Let's cut. Double check.
No, keep going. Keep going. Yeah.
It's in theaters at the end of May. And we're also joined by the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. JP Gomez.
Because I was just about to say this same shit too. Because I was like, wait, when does it come out again?
If you're the
It comes out
myth,
sometime.
I would see the myth. He's been here a couple weeks.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
You have lost me. I have no idea what you're talking about. I think
He says the myth and the legend, but if you're a myth, we'd never meet
That's
you.
right.
There is no podcast without our glorious editor.
That's right. I don't exist.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be sure to go on and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. We upload new crazy videos like this every week, and we also have an audio version that goes onto SoundCloud. You enjoy our craziness? Smash that like button. Help out the show. So, gentlemen, we just got back from the movie, and this was an Elton John biopic, but I wanted to go on and ask you guys, what's your experience with Elton John? What do you guys know about this before going into the movie?
Well, I'm like pretty much every other person who knows Elton John, pretty much liking most of his music, in particular his greatest hits, really, because Rocketman is legendary practically, and Tiny Dancer too. So I don't know too much about his personal life, but as far as his music goes, it's as soon as you play it, we're just like, oh yeah, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up with his music.
Clearly.
I have a record that belonged to my parents, an original record. So, I remember hearing the music. Whether it was, his music is programmed. I found out into keyboards. Like Crocodile Rock is programmed into keyboards. So I had a keyboard that had that song's tune, played into it.
Like a preset?
Yeah, preset.
That's kind of cool. Man, you've made it when you're a preset.
I remember hearing when he recorded The Circle of Life for Lion King.
Oh, I forgot about that song.
He did that?
Yeah.
Yeah, he did.
He did.
Yeah, he did.
Wow.
Oh, it's so
So
fucking good.
I'm familiar with his music and a little bit of his personal life, not as much as they go into detail with what's in the movie.
Okay. I mean, as it's very obvious by now, I knew virtually nothing about this man going in. I grew up pretty culturally inept, so I have, I think, a unique perspective.
Yeah, didn't we go on we went to the theater one time. We all got in a car.
We did, and we played his music.
We were talking about Elton John, and I think we were talking about this movie specifically.
Yeah.
And you were like, I don't know nothing about Elton John. But then we played one of his music, and you were like, oh, I know.
Yeah,
this
I've realizing and hearing it throughout the movie, and when we were in the car, I've definitely heard these songs.
I think that's a lot of people who have heard the songs just don't know the artist behind it. Like a lot of people wouldn't know that The Circle of Life was Elton John, or Crocodile Rock is Elton John.
Yeah,
or
yeah.
Rocketman is Elton John.
And even when you guys played these songs, I deliberately went into this movie not doing a lot of research, just because I wanted to see what this movie would teach me about him when I came out.
Right.
Being so culturally inept as I am, I think that this gives me a chance to give a relatively unique perspective for a change. But what did you guys think of the biopic, of the story that it was told here?
I thought it was quite interesting because the movie starts out just kind of establishing how this whole movie is framed, because it starts out with Elton John at a sort of like a rehab, I guess, essentially.
The movie
rehab.
opened up and I was like, am I watching Rocketman or am I watching Birdman?
Oh, yeah, because he had those freaking wings and all that. Yeah. Yeah, that's a testament to how crazy some of Elton John's costumes were at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, I found it very interesting. I knew when watching it, I found it really interesting how they showed all his flaws at the start of the movie. Thought that was an interesting take on it.
He jumped right in it. In the first
Yeah,
10 minutes,
like,
he's like, I'm an alcoholic.
Yeah.
I am sex addict. I take drugs. He just goes on and on and on.
Yeah. And, I found it very interesting how they decided to use his well-known songs to show the stages of his life and how he was feeling. How he was feeling when they used the song Rocketman. They showed it. 'Cause it kind of made me connect in a way to see how he was actually feeling in life when he did the song, when he wrote the song, or when he put music to the song.
Like I noticed immediately at the beginning of the movie, they started playing "Goodbye Yellow Brick Road."
Yeah.
And I thought that was an interesting choice to start with that, because it's like, even just the name alone is the movie talks all about, or not the movie, but the song talks about the sort of disillusionment.
Yeah.
And Elton had to deal with a lot of that.
And it almost like bookends the movie.
It does.
It does, yeah.
I mean, this is your spoiler warning. Obviously, we're reviewing it, so we're going to talk about spoilers. But it almost bookends the movie when
Can you really spoil like someone's life?
I mean, you could Google it, but
Yeah, like, what could be there?
Well, I
Google
mean,
Google is a giant spoiler for
What's
Rocket.
great about this movie is that they didn't. It wasn't. It was a story about coming to fame, but it was also a story about struggling with that. A lot of people have the idea of that. Oh, musicians and actors and actresses and all these people in the spotlight are perfect and they're not dealing with anything. And what I liked about this movie is that it showed what they deal with on the inside.
Not just fame, but also acceptance.
Yeah.
Because the movie starts out about his childhood, and
It was definitely about self-discovery.
a lot about self-discovery, but just the fact that like he's trying to struggle to get the acceptance of people who are closest to him.
Mhm.
Because the start of the movie is him as a child before he was Elton John, and him trying to get in the favor of his father, his biological father.
His
But
father
he-
just doesn't give a shit.
No,
He-
not
like
really.
he's trying real hard. When are you gonna hug me? And Dad's just like,
Don't be soft.
Yeah.
is essentially like the exact words that he said to him, which I thought was very interesting. But I guess this is all told within the perspective of Elton John. So I guess
Yeah.
he probably doesn't know how it went exactly. So it's very it feels like a very fantasy world at the beginning of that movie.
You remember the part where the kid is looking at the music and in his bed after his mom, which I wasn't a fan of the mom.
Oh yeah.
And the whole parent thing, I do feel
well,
like
we can go on and say both of his parents did not treat him well.
yes,
No.
but I do feel like it was beaten, like it was pushed on the audience too much. Like I got it, I understood. His parents are mean, evil, not good people.
It's interesting that you point that out because I think the movie does a lot of that in general, beating you over the head to
Right.
get you the point.
But one of my favorite scenes is, the kid is laying there in bed. His mom tells him to shut off the lights, and he's reading the notes still, and then he just goes into what he hopes for in life. You could like get this little piano, and then you see him playing conducting an orchestra, and I really found that very interesting.
Well, visually, I personally thought the movie established at least what I assumed to be his natural ability to just hear notes and make them, in his head.
Right.
Because he would just like take his fingers on a table and you would hear the notes as he did that. I thought that was a very cool way of visually explaining to the audience how he perceives and creates music, which I don't see or I don't imagine being an easy thing to convey to the audience for pictures like this.
Yeah.
Not just like how he perceives music, but how he perceives, I guess, just like his performances.
Yeah.
Because you have that scene where he was like performing in Los Angeles for the first time, and when he starts playing Crocodile Rock,
Yeah.
there's this one shot where he's kind of lifting on the floor, and so does everyone
really
else in the
cool.
audience.
Yeah.
There were some really cool shots
It's
here.
pretty cool visually. It kind of shows like how much of a surprising and almost transcendental experience it is watching Elton John perform live.
Yeah.
Well, I want to go in and throw out there before we started this up. I looked up the director. His name is Dexter Fletcher, and this is actually only his 5th directing credit. None of his movies were really like major hits.
What did he do before?
He's actually mainly an actor. He has over 100 actor credits on IMDb for movies like Sherlock Gnomes. Yeah.
Okay.
So
never
nothing
mind.
that I saw was particularly remarkable or memorable, but I think this is the one that's kind of going to put him on the map.
Right.
Maybe.
I mean, yeah, assuming this one
Yeah.
sells really well and is critically acclaimed, but
Mhm.
but
I
no,
mean, in visually, I'll say like, in terms of the choreography and how they, like Saturday Night song where
yeah.
they're like in the fair and everything, and how the camera moved. That was all great, and especially how they went from him being a young and
that was
playing
really cool.
to being like middle age. I think
Young
Yeah.
adult.
young
Elton.
adult. That was really great. I do think like there was a scene where it was the Rocketman song and he went up into
He blasted
space.
off.
I was like that
That
really
was really corny.
yeah. I was like the effects were really on that.
All I
I
thought
was like
was Team Rocket's
I don't-
blasting off again.
I don't need that. I was like I would want to just see him playing the piano. That's what Elton John does, is he plays the piano, and he will wear these crazy cool looking outfits, and that's what made him stand apart from the others. But the whole shooting up in space thing, it was just like not, we didn't need that.
I guess in terms of like pure CGI, it's just not very good. I guess they don't have that big of a budget, but like I guess sort of in terms of metaphor, it works pretty well
Yeah.
because it's just like at that point
His
was when
career was taken off.
his career was taking off,
But
but
the
literally.
pressure was rising.
the pressure was
yeah,
mounting
yeah.
because that's when you have the whole sex, drugs, and rock and roll
Yeah.
type of phase happen in a typical biopic.
Well, that's why I didn't need to see the whole him shooting off,
I
because
think the idea is
the
that, like-
song and the visuals on screen in terms of what he was going through.
He
I
became
think
Iron
that's
Man.
when the song comes on is when he's being wheeled into the hospital. Is that
Oh, that
Yeah.
was-
correct? And he
Yeah.
like tried to kill himself in the pool.
That's
When the
part-
whole song starts, and then it ends after he hits on the baseball field and goes up
No, he was just wearing a baseball.
Yeah, but he
uniform.
goes, yeah. Like, I understood what was going on with the music, plus seeing him being wheeled in the hospital and all of that and going on the stage. I didn't need to actually see the whole shooting off
Speaking
thing.
of that kind of a thing, one of the things I noticed about the movie that I want to kind of touch on a little bit that we talked about earlier is how it kind of beats you over the head with some things. I think it was like near the end of the second act, or maybe even right in the middle of the second act, where he like overdoses on drugs and tries to kill himself, and his life's going downhill. He can't find a good lover, and his family just wants him for his money.
Yeah.
So he decides to just kill himself. And he was just on this constant downward spiral for
Right.
so much of the movie after that. I was like, okay, I get it. You're pushing people away. You have a drug problem. But the way it was introduced, I felt was really sudden. Like, I didn't think things were that bad in his life when he decided he was going to, like, kill himself. The diving board scene?
Yeah.
Mhm.
I felt like that should have happened a little later on, and that could be accurate to his life. I'm not sure.
Well, I personally felt like, when they started this movie, they started listing off all of the issues, all of the things he was going through. But then, and we continue to see him struggle through life as he's becoming famous and him dealing with stuff. But the problem is when you hit an audience with all of that right at first, and then you continuously to beat us over the head, we just get wear out. I'm like, I don't want to hear about the parents anymore.
There was a lot of that.
I get it. If you want to change this, you can change it. If the pressure's too high, you can end it. But they had to stick with the truth of what he was going through in life. So, I mean, maybe that's how it actually was.
Yeah, we don't really. None of us are experts, and none of us really know. But what do you think about the acting in this movie? I mean, there's really two main actors, I would say, that really kind of emphasize that, and that is, of course, Taron Egerton as Elton John himself, and then his best friend and the writer of his songs, Bernie Taupin. I think that's how you say it. Played by Jamie Bell.
I will say they got the look down.
They nailed
Perfect.
that look.
Like, the album.
The costume design in general, I thought, was really cool.
They recreated his outfits pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as far as like the physical performances go, like you can kind of tell there's a little bit of Taron Egerton in instead of Elton John, but I think what overcame that is his performance.
Yeah.
Because not just his acting, but I'm pretty sure that's Taron Egerton actually singing. Like they did just lip sync over Elton John's greatest hits. He actually
and then
sang
he's
that.
not bad at
I
all.
mean,
He's pretty good.
He's
yeah.
really good.
When it comes to doing biopics based off of like, of people, right? This was good. There's only so much you can do. Like he's not going to be specifically or be like, oh, like he matched Elton John perfectly. I think he did a fantastic job. I mean, I don't know Elton John personally to
What
say.
do you mean? I thought you text him every other week.
No. Personally to say that, oh yeah, he got it 100% correct. But the performances were great. I was pulled in the story, watching the performances online. I had no issues with them.
I think what was most important is carrying on the spirit of Elton John,
Yeah.
or at least Elton's journey, because
Yeah.
of his frustrations about finding acceptance, finding someone to love, and
Yeah.
his frustrations with that, his fame, his homosexuality, because that was a thing throughout the entire movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because this took place in like the 80s, 90s ish.
Yeah.
Majority of his life, from what I understand, and that was nowhere. The world was nowhere near as accepting
No.
as it is nowadays. So that was definitely something he struggled with.
Yeah, and I mean, even young Elton John, the kid was great.
Oh, that kid was really great.
I mean, the fact that his singing, his performance and choreography, the way, it kind of just all work together. I mean, I think the cast did a fantastic job.
Yeah, shout out.
Even the
shout out to
parents,
that.
like, as much as I was like angry at them and was getting tired of hearing about them, they, I love the grandma. The grandma was great. She was one of my favorites.
She's like the only one that's like, hey, maybe you can actually.
The only
go
one that
be
actually
something.
cared about.
Yeah.
Yeah, literally the only one.
The rest of them, like, okay, Dallas Bryce Howard, who played the mom, at least made her point near the end of the movie, because she's like, I spend my whole life doing everything for you, and now you're just kind of like shutting me out. But there was also like this kind of shameness from her, because she's like, oh, I knew you were homosexual the whole time. I wish you were never born.
Yeah, I didn't understand. Like, that was one thing with her character. I'm like, okay, so you seem nice to him a little bit at the beginning, and then once you cheat on your husband, mind you, you get mad at him.
Selfish and self-centered.
Yeah.
She even, in the beginning of the movie, when they were singing that song with everybody in the house, she even said, I want love, but I want it on my terms.
Yeah.
That describes her this whole movie.
But
it was a whole shitty situation wrong, because the dad was just a total dickhead.
I will say the weird thing about this movie, and it happened at the end of it, is the fact that, okay, so in the rehab center where they're all meeting and they're all sitting around towards the end of the movie, and he kind of goes in his own little world, and he's looking and he's talking to the main people around his life that have either caused him pain, happiness. Yet I understood what the filmmakers were doing. They were trying to make it seem like he was in his own mindset. However, the people around him in the same room were also looking at the characters, the other people that he was.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah. And what was coming, I was like, okay, so are they there? Are they not there? Are they there? Or are they not there? And they did that a lot. He kept going in and out of his own world where characters would come in and out. I'm like, it's okay, so are they actually there or are they not there?
I think the entire thing is like a figment of Elton's imagination.
It was him mentally coming to terms with everything.
Yeah.
But if the people that were in the rehab facility were looking at the characters, I can see where that would be confusing.
Yeah.
I personally just looked at the figments. I wasn't keeping my eyes on the others. But that's really interesting. I really wish I had picked up
there
on
was like
that.
one girl, she was like looking over and I was like, what's going, why is she doing that? That's not.
What are our final thoughts here? What do you guys think? Do you think this is something they should go out and see in theaters when it comes out, or should they wait, maybe see it on Netflix or whatever streaming service?
I think, well, one thing I want to talk about is kind of the elephant in the room for a lot of people, which is how does this compare to Bohemian Rhapsody? I don't know if you guys.
I haven't seen it.
I've heard nothing but
I
bad
can compare
things.
it to other biopic artist movies, but I cannot compare it to the Rhapsody.
Okay. Well, I can say, on authority, this is a lot better than Bohemian Rhapsody, and I'll explain why. Because Bohemian Rhapsody came out, I think, last year, and I think
Yeah.
got some Oscar nominations for some godforsaken reason. But I think part of the reason
Tell
why
us how you really feel, JP.
that movie sucks. I'll just say it straight up. The part of the reason why is because I think this movie does what Bohemian Rhapsody refused to do, which is kind of like delve into really why, just why these sort of people did the way they did and why this happened to them. Because a lot of what Bohemian Rhapsody did is just kind of like smooth over a lot of the details. You know, how did they get along?
Did they just like highlight the good parts?
Pretty
The
much.
parts that people really
They
want
were
to
just
see?
like, oh hey, you know, Freddie Mercury's gonna meet with the rest of the band. Oh, they just came up with this song. They got into a little fight, came up with this song. Oh, suddenly Freddie Mercury got AIDS. For some reason, they never explain why. Oh, and then he died like halfway into the movie.
You know,
And then-
people just get AIDS at random points.
yeah,
throughout their life.
randomly, yeah, according to that movie. So yeah, that movie was bad. It didn't really do anything particularly interesting. It didn't explain anything particularly interesting. This movie at least tried to.
Mhm.
At least tried to delve into why Elton John went through this whole drug phase and why Elton had to, deal with his whole homosexuality type of thing. That's something that Bohemian Rhapsody barely did at all. This at least tried to like explain this whole thing with like him trying to deal with his father and then trying to try and deal with this whole personal versus business sort of relationship with his new manager.
Yeah.
And so it at least tried that. I think it could have done a little bit more, but it's fine. As far as the whole movie is concerned, as far as my thoughts towards Rocketman in particular, I would say it's pretty good. I think it's for some reason it kind of like framed itself as like kind of a musical type of thing, and then by the second act or by like the second third of the movie, it just kind of didn't. Cause
Yeah,
it was just
it
like,
definitely.
all right,
That is
now
true.
we're
It felt
getting-
like a musical.
it felt like a musical of the first third of Elton's life, and then it just went to like, okay, let's get back to business, let's get to the actual plot, and then by like the last third, it started to get back to the musical. So I thought in terms of like how it kind of frames itself, it's a little awkward. But as far as the performances go, Taron Egerton was great. A lot of people were pretty good at their roles. I found some of the performances of the characters were pretty compelling. So I would say, if you were disappointed in Bohemian Rhapsody like I was, don't sleep on it. It's actually pretty good. And if you like Bohemian Rhapsody, this is way better.
Okay, Cameron, what are your thoughts?
I feel in terms of going out and seeing it, I think if you are an Elton John fan and you want to, tap your feet to the music, or you want to learn more about his life and you don't want to read about it, then go see it in theaters. I really feel like this is definitely targeted to those who are fans of Elton John. If not, I would honestly say wait until it comes out on Hulu, Netflix, Amazon, whatnot. In terms of, if you like biopic artist movies like Ray or the Johnny Cash movie, I'm trying to think of it, it's Walk or something, go see the movie, because it felt like the Ray movie. It felt like the Johnny Cash biopic movie. Overall, I think it was a fun movie. It was enjoyable because I'm a fan of Elton John. If I wasn't a fan of Elton John, I personally think I wouldn't have enjoyed the film as much.
I can agree with that. I had a good time, in all honesty. Like I said, I'm the person that didn't know anything about this man or his life. I'd heard his music and I didn't know it going in. And what what I walked out with was, I thought the story was fine. I thought there were some visually really appealing moments that tickled my fancy, so to speak. But what I also walked out of it thinking is, his life story played out almost exactly the way I expected it to. I mean, and I think it's just a trend with people who become celebrities. They make it big. They usually have a best friend who helps them make it big. They push best friend away once they make it big. Then they start hating their life because they start taking drugs, try to kill themselves. Then maybe they make a turnaround at the end once they admit they got help and live happily ever after. And that's pretty much exactly what his story was.
Right.
And as a story, I saw it beat per beat, but that doesn't mean it's bad. They did a good enough job telling the story where I still had a good time. I'm just a little disappointed that I didn't really see as many twists and turns. The big twist, I forgot to even mention the fact that, usually these people have terrible parents. All of that happens.
Yeah,
The movie, the Johnny Cash movie is Walk the Line.
Walk the Line.
Okay, that's the name of the movie.
But,
Walk
I
the
mean,
Line.
I did have a good time. If, I was actually not super excited about going to go see this, and I had a much better time watching it than I expected to have. So, I mean, if you're an Elton John fan, I can't say whether you should go see this or not, but I think you would like it because I was sitting next to a couple people that were fans, and they were grinning and humming the music.
Yeah, I was
as it
tapping my
happened.
feet.
Yeah, so, I mean, it was clearly a good time.
Were they the people that went like, oh shit, when they found out that like his manager / boyfriend was like sleeping around?
Yeah, I think so, actually.
Okay, were they the type of
I
people?
think they
people
were,
were
yeah,
having
yeah.
a good time. I will say that people were really having
Yeah,
a good
if
time.
you're-
And
Yeah,
there
it was a full theater.
and a round of applause at the end, especially when they started showing credits and everything Elton John has done.
Yep, 28 years sober.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I mean, I honestly, some
Bravo.
of the songs I heard were catchy enough, and now I know where they came from. I might honestly pick up listening to his music. So, I mean, if that was the movie's goal, great job, guys. You nailed it. I'm interested. But I don't know. I had a good time. I think if I had to say, if you're a fan, go see it in theaters. If you're not, you can wait. But if maybe don't fight it too hard if somebody you know invites you to the theater. But with that, I think that concludes our review. Any final thoughts?
Nope.
We pretty much said our final thoughts.
All right, then, ladies and gentlemen, please be sure to subscribe again if you haven't already. We post new episodes every week. You can go on and click right here to check out last week where we reviewed Detective Pikachu.